Every year, my children forgot to wish me a happy Mother's Day. This year, I bought a beach house for myself. When they showed up with a lawyer to steal it from me, they thought I was alone. They had no idea that I had a witness, cameras, and a sheriff on my side. My name is Helen Wallace. I am 69 years old. And this is the story of how my own children tried to erase me from my own life. It was Sunday, May 10th, Mother's Day. I had woken up early, as always. I made coffee. I set the table with the embroidered tablecloth my mother gave me 40 years ago. I took out the good cups, the ones I only use on special occasions. I baked homemade bread. The smell filled the whole house. I placed fresh flowers in the center of the table. White daisies. My favorites. I waited. The phone was next to my cup. I looked at it every 5 minutes. The screen stayed dark. No calls, no texts, nothing. I thought maybe they would come without calling. A surprise. That would be nice. Olivia always said she liked surprises. Ethan, too. So I waited a little longer. I made lunch. I made the pot roast they used to love when they were children. The one I made on Sundays when they came back from the park with scraped knees and red cheeks. I chopped the vegetables slowly, carefully, imagining their faces when they walked through the door and smelled that aroma. But the door never opened. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I picked up my phone. I opened social media. I do not know why I did it. Maybe because I needed to see their faces. Maybe because a part of me still believed there was an explanation. That's when I saw it. Olivia had posted a photo. She was at an elegant restaurant, one of those expensive places downtown. She was wearing a new dress, smiling. Next to her was Ethan, also smiling. And there were other people, friends, glasses of wine, full plates. The caption said, "Perfect Sunday with the people who matter." The people who matter. I read that sentence 3 times. 4, 5. The people who matter. I was not in that photo. I was not at that restaurant. I was not one of the people who mattered. I looked at the table I had set. The bread that was now cold. The flowers that were starting to wilt. The pot roast that no one was going to eat. I did not cry. I did not scream. I just stayed there. Sitting. Staring at the void that existed between what I expected and what my life really was. But something changed in that moment. Something small, like a tiny crack in a pane of glass. Barely visible, but enough for everything else to start breaking. Because this was not the first year. Last year they did not call either. Olivia sent a text at 11 o'clock at night. It said, "Sorry, Mom, the day just flew by. Love you." Empty words. Words written in 10 seconds and forgotten in 5. The year before was worse. They promised to come for lunch. I prepared everything. I bought a special cut of meat. I made Ethan's favorite dessert. I waited until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Then Olivia called. She said something had come up. Something urgent. She did not specify what. She just said, "You know how it is, Mom." And she hung up. No, I did not know how it was. But now I was starting to understand. I put the food in the refrigerator. I washed the dishes. I folded the tablecloth. I put the flowers in a smaller vase. All in silence. All with slow automatic movements. I could not sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling, thinking, remembering, trying to find the exact moment when I had become invisible to them. Was it when they got married? When they had their own families? When they got important jobs and big houses? Or was it before? Was it when I raised them alone after their father abandoned us? When I worked 2 jobs so they could go to good schools? When I sold my jewelry to pay for Olivia's college tuition? When I mortgaged the house to help Ethan start his business? Was that when I stopped mattering? The next day, Monday, my phone rang. It was Olivia. "Hi, Mom," she said with that cheerful, shallow voice she had perfected over the years. "How are you?" "Fine," I replied. "That's good. Hey, sorry about yesterday. It was a crazy day. We had a commitment we couldn't cancel. You know how it is." That phrase again. You know how it is. "Yes," I said. "I know. We'll make it up to you soon. I promise." "Oh, and Ethan wanted to call you too, but he's in meetings all day. He sends his love." Of course, I said. We hung up. 30 seconds. That was it. 30 seconds to fulfill her obligation, so she could tell herself she had called her mother, that she had done the right thing. I sat on the living room armchair, the same armchair where I rocked them when they were babies, where I read them stories before bed, where I comforted them when they had nightmares. And that is when I understood something fundamental. This was not carelessness. This was not forgetfulness. This was intentional. They had erased me. Deliberately, systematically, carefully. I was no longer a part of their lives. I was an errand, a mandatory call, a 10-word text message, an empty apology. I was the woman who gave them life, but I was no longer necessary. And the worst part is that they probably did not even realize what they were doing. To them, I had simply ceased to exist at the center of their worlds. I had become peripheral, background, optional, but I was still here, breathing, feeling, existing. And at that moment, sitting in that armchair, with the afternoon sun streaming through the window, I made a decision. I was not going to disappear just because they had decided not to see me. I was not going to keep waiting for calls that never came. I was not going to keep setting tables for ghosts. I was going to do something for me, just for me. And that is how it all began. The memories started coming like waves, one after another, without mercy, without rest. I stayed awake that night, and the next, and the next, because once I opened that door in my memory, I could not close it again. I started to remember things, little things, details that seemed insignificant at the time, but now, seen together, they formed a pattern, a clear and painful picture. Ethan's birthday had been in March. 2 months earlier, I had sent him a gift, an expensive shirt I saw in a downtown store. I spent almost $200, more than I could afford. But he was my son. I wanted him to know I was thinking of him. He never thanked me. I waited a week, 2 weeks. Nothing. Then I sent him a message. Did the package arrive? He replied 6 hours later. Yeah, Mom, thanks. It's nice. 3 more words and a period. That was all. But what really hurt me was what I discovered later. Olivia had posted photos of Ethan's birthday party. A big party. At her house. With balloons, cake, lots of people. I had not been invited. I did not even know there was going to be a party. When I asked Ethan about it, days later, he told me, "Oh, it was a last-minute thing, Mom. Just casual. We didn't want to bother you with the trip. We didn't want to bother you." As if my presence was a bother. As if being with my son on his birthday was an inconvenience for everyone. But I kept remembering. In February, it had been Valentine's Day. Olivia posted photos of a romantic dinner with her husband, champagne glasses, candles, red roses everywhere. She looked happy. I sent her a message that day. "Have a beautiful night." She never replied. In January, it was New Year's. I called them both, Ethan and Olivia. I wanted to wish them the best for the coming year. I wanted to hear their voices. Neither of them answered. I left them messages, long messages, telling them how much I loved them, how much I wished this year would be special for them. Ethan replied with a text message the next day. "Thanks, Mom. Happy New Year." Olivia never replied. But what hurt the most was Christmas. December of last year, just 5 months ago, we had agreed to spend Christmas together. At my house, like we always had. I bought everything. The turkey, the ingredients for dinner, the gifts. I decorated the whole house. I put up the tree, the lights, everything. 3 days before Christmas, Olivia called me. "Mom, we have a change of plans," she said. Her voice sounded distant, rehearsed. "We're going to spend Christmas at Ethan's in-laws' house. His mother-in-law is not feeling well and wants to have the whole family together. I hope you understand." "And me?" I asked. My voice sounded smaller than I expected. "You can come if you want," she said, but the way she said it made it clear it was just a formality, an empty invitation, although it's going to be crowded, and it's far. Like 3 hours from your house. I don't know if you want to make that trip. "I understand," I said. I knew you'd understand. You're the best. Mom, we'll bring you your gift later, okay? They never brought me any gift. I spent Christmas alone. I ate a piece of turkey in front of the television. I watched old movies. I cried a little. But I told myself that next year would be different. How stupid I was. I kept digging through my memory, searching, finding. In November, it had been my birthday, 69 years old, almost 7 decades of life. Olivia sent a text at 10 o'clock at night. Happy birthday, Mom. God bless you. With a cake emoji. Ethan sent nothing. Nothing at all. When I called him on it, 2 days later, he said, Sorry, Mom. It slipped my mind. I've had a lot of stress at work. You know how it is. You know how it is. That phrase had become their universal excuse. The answer for everything. The shield they hid behind. But there was more. So much more. In October, they had a family gathering. On Olivia's side. A meal to celebrate I don't know what. I saw the photos on social media. Her husband's entire family was there. Cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents. Children running around, laughter. I had not been invited. When I asked Olivia, she told me, It was just something for David's family, Mom. I didn't want to make you uncomfortable by putting you in the middle of people you don't know. But her mother-in-law was there, and her mother-in-law did not know everyone either. But she had been invited. I had not. In September, Ethan asked to borrow money. $500. He said it was an emergency, that he would pay me back in 2 weeks. I gave him the money, even though it meant I would have to tighten my budget that month, even though it meant skipping some meals, even though it meant not buying the medicine I needed. I gave it to him because he was my son. He never paid me back. And when I asked him about it, a month later, he said, Oh, Mom, don't pressure me. I'll pay you back. Don't be like that. Don't be like that. As if I were the bad guy. As if asking him to keep his word was an attack. In August, it was Olivia's daughter's birthday, my granddaughter. Emma was turning 7 years old. I bought her a beautiful gift, a doll I had seen on her wish list. It cost $150, but she was my granddaughter, my only granddaughter. I went to the party. With my gift wrapped in shiny paper, with a big bow, I arrived early. I rang the doorbell. Olivia opened the door. She looked surprised, almost annoyed. Mom, she said, I didn't know you were coming. What do you mean you didn't know? It's Emma's birthday. I'm her grandmother. Yeah, of course. It's just, well, it doesn't matter. Come on in. She let me in. But she did not greet me warmly. She did not hug me. She just stepped aside so I could pass. The house was full. Kids, parents, decorations everywhere. Balloons, music, a table full of sweets. But no one spoke to me. I sat in a chair in the corner. I held my purse in my lap. I watched Emma open her gifts. When she opened mine, she barely looked at it. Another doll, she said, listlessly. And she set it aside. Olivia did not even thank me. I stayed for an hour, maybe less. No one noticed when I left. All these memories, all these small exclusions, all these moments when they made me feel invisible. They were not accidents. They were not coincidences. It was a pattern, a clear and deliberate pattern. They had been erasing me, little by little, day after day, until it reached the point where they did not even bother to hide it. I sat in my living room, surrounded by old photos, photos of when they were children, when they needed me, when I was their whole world. When did everything change? At what point did I stop being Mom and become a burden? Because that's what I was now. I knew it. I felt it. I was the inconvenient woman, the one who asked questions, the one who waited for calls, the one who wanted attention. It was too much. It was always too much. And they had decided, without telling me, that it was easier to just push me aside, keep me at a distance, give me crumbs of affection when they felt guilty. But not anymore. Because that night, looking at all those photos, I understood something fundamental. I could not keep living like this. I could not keep waiting for love from people who had decided not to give it. I could not keep begging for a place in my own children's lives. I had to do something. I had to change my life. And I had to do it now. Before I completely forgot who I was, before I disappeared completely, the next morning, I woke up different. I do not know how to explain it. It was as if something inside me had broken, or maybe it had been fixed. I am not sure. I got up. I made coffee. I sat by the window, and for the first time in years, I did not think of them first. I thought of me. Who was I now? I was not the mother they needed. That was already clear. They did not need me. Maybe they never really needed me. They only needed what I could give them. The money, the support, the sacrifice. But me as a person, me as Helen, me with my dreams and my desires and my heart, that never mattered to them. And the time had come to accept it. Not with anger, not with shouting, not with drama, just with the quiet, devastating clarity of someone who finally sees the truth. My children did not love me the way a daughter and a son should love their mother. Maybe they cared for me in some distant, convenient way. Maybe they thought of me when they needed something. Maybe they even felt guilty from time to time. But true love, love that is shown with presence, with time, with effort, with sacrifice, that love did not exist, and I had spent years trying to convince myself otherwise. Years making excuses, years justifying, years hoping things would change. But things were not going to change. They were not going to change. And if I wanted to have a life worth living, I had to be the one to change. I stared out the window for hours, watching the cars go by, watching people walk, watching the world keep moving even though my heart was breaking. And then I had a thought, a small thought, almost insignificant, but it grew and grew until it filled my whole head. What if I just left? Not forever, not dramatically, just, what if I built a life away from them? A life that was mine, only mine. What if I stopped waiting? The idea scared me, because it meant accepting something no mother wants to accept. It meant admitting defeat. It meant letting go, but it also meant freedom. I opened my computer. That old computer Ethan had given me years ago when he no longer needed it. I turned it on, waited for it to boot up, and I searched for houses on the beach. I do not know why I thought of the beach. Maybe because I had always loved the sea. Maybe because when I was a little girl, I dreamed of living near the ocean. Maybe because I needed something that was completely different from this house full of memories. I spent days looking at options. Small houses, apartments, cabins, simple but beautiful places. Places where I could wake up listening to the waves. Where I could walk barefoot in the sand. Where I could start over. The prices were high. Very high. But I had savings. Savings I had put away for years. Money I had planned to leave to them when I died. But why wait until I died? Why not use that money now? For me? For my happiness? The idea was almost revolutionary, almost forbidden, because my whole life had been about them, about giving to them, about sacrificing for them. But what about me? When was it my turn? I found a house, a small house, 2 bedrooms, a simple kitchen, a living room with big windows that looked out at the sea, a porch where I could sit in the afternoons. It cost $180,000. It was almost all my money, almost my entire life savings. But I wanted it. I wanted it with an intensity I had not felt in years. I called the number on the listing. A woman answered. Her name was Caroline. She had a kind voice. Warm. I want to see the house, I told her. Of course. When can you come? Tomorrow. And so it was. The next day I took a bus. I traveled for 3 hours. I arrived in that coastal town I had never visited. The air smelled different, cleaner, fresher, more full of possibilities. Caroline was waiting for me in front of the house. She was a woman in her 50s, gray hair, kind eyes. She greeted me with a hug. You must be Helen, she said. Yes, come on. I'll show you everything. We went into the house. And the moment I crossed that threshold, I knew it was mine. The walls were white, the floors light wood. The windows let in so much light it seemed like the sun lived inside. And the sound of the sea, that constant, peaceful sound, like a heartbeat. It's perfect, I said. Caroline smiled. I knew it. I knew you would love it. When can I buy it? Are you sure already? Completely. Caroline looked at me with curiosity. Can I ask you something? Yes. Are you running away from something or towards something? I was silent for a moment, thinking, feeling. Both, I said finally. She nodded, as if she understood perfectly. Sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes we have to save ourselves. She was right. We signed the papers a week later. I transferred the money. All my money. Everything I had. And the house was mine. I did not tell Olivia or Ethan anything. I did not ask their permission. I did not consult them. I did not give them any explanations, because I did not owe them any. This was my decision, my life, my money. And for the first time in decades, I was doing something just for me. I started to pack my things, little by little. Clothes, books, photos, the essentials. I was going to move in a month. I was going to leave this house, this city, this life. I was going to start over. But 3 days before the move, Caroline called me. Helen, she said. Her voice sounded worried. I need to tell you something important. What is it? I was talking with a lawyer friend of mine. I told her about your purchase, about you having children, and she told me something that worried me. What? She said you should protect that property legally, that you should make sure no one can take it from you, especially family. She said she's seen many cases where children try to take their elderly parents' property. I froze. Why would they do that? I asked, although I already knew the answer. For money. It's always for money, or for control, or because they think they're entitled. But it's my house. I bought it with my money. I know. But sometimes that doesn't matter. Sometimes family finds ways to complicate things. What should I do? Come see my friend. Her name is Claire. She's very good. She can help you protect yourself. The next day, I went to see Claire. Her office was small but neat. She was a young woman, maybe 35 years old, but she had a serious professional gaze. I told her everything. About the house, about my children, about how they had treated me. She listened in silence, taking notes, nodding from time to time. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. Helen, she said, I'm going to be very honest with you. What you're describing sounds like the beginning of a pattern of financial abuse. I'm not saying your children will definitely try something, but the signs are there. The emotional distance, the requests for money, the lack of respect. All of that can escalate. What can I do? First, you need to document everything, every conversation, every message, every interaction. Second, you need to legally protect this property. We're going to create a trust. We're going to install security cameras in the house. And we're going to make sure that if anyone tries anything, we have evidence. Do you really think it's necessary? Claire looked me straight in the eye. I hope not. I hope your children simply let you live in peace. But if I've learned anything in this job, it's that it's better to be prepared. Because when things get ugly, they get very ugly, very fast. So I did everything she told me. I installed cameras. I hired a lawyer. I saved every message, every call, and I waited. Because something told me this was not over. Something told me that when Olivia and Ethan found out about the house, everything was going to explode. And I was right. I moved to the beach house in June, a Tuesday morning. The moving truck arrived early. 2 men loaded my few belongings, boxes of clothes, some furniture, photographs I could not leave behind, even though they hurt to look at. I closed the door of my old house for the last time. The house where I raised my children. The house full of memories, some good, most now tinged with sadness. I did not look back. The drive was long but peaceful. I arrived in the mid-afternoon. The sun was high. The sea was sparkling. And when I got out of the car in front of my new house, I felt something I had not felt in years. Peace. The first few days were an adjustment. Unpacking, arranging, meeting the neighbors, walking on the beach, getting used to the constant sound of the waves. I did not tell Olivia or Ethan I had moved. I just stopped answering their occasional calls with the same urgency. I stopped being available all the time. I stopped being the mother who waited by the phone. 2 weeks passed. 3. A month. Neither of them asked where I was. Neither of them noticed my absence. Or if they did not care enough to investigate. And that confirmed everything I already knew. But then, one Saturday morning, everything changed. I was watering the plants on the porch when my phone rang. "It was Olivia, Mom," she said. Her voice sounded strange, too sweet, too interested. "How have you been? We haven't talked in a while." "Fine," I said. Cautious. "That's great. Hey, Ethan and I want to come visit you. We haven't seen you in so long. How about this weekend?" It was so unexpected I was speechless. Visit me? After months of indifference? After years of making me feel invisible? "What's this all about?" I asked. "What's what all about? We're your family. We miss you. Can't we want to see you?" There was something false in her tone, something rehearsed. "How did you know where I am?" There was a brief pause, too brief, as if she had been expecting that question. "We went to your house, the old house, and the neighbors told us you had moved. They gave us your new address." A lie. I had not left my address with the neighbors. "I see," I said. "So, can we come? Tomorrow maybe? We'll bring lunch. We'll spend the day together." Something in my stomach twisted. An alarm. A warning. "Let me think about it," I said. "I'll call you later." I hung up before she could insist. I stood there, phone in my hand, my heart beating fast. How had they found my address? And why this sudden interest? I called Claire immediately. "Something is happening," I told her. I told her about Olivia's call. "Have you mentioned the house to them?" she asked. "No, not to anyone. Only you and Caroline know." Then someone else told them. Or they found out on their own. "Helen, I don't like this. I don't like this at all. What do you think they want?" "I don't know, but I suggest you turn on the cameras. All of them. And don't let them into the house alone." "Do you have someone who can be with you?" "I can ask Caroline." "Do it. And keep me informed of everything." I called Caroline. I explained the situation. She did not hesitate for a second. "I'm on my way right now," she said. "And I'll stay the whole weekend if necessary." She arrived that same afternoon with a small suitcase and a determination in her eyes that made me feel less alone. "I don't know if I'm overreacting," I told her. "You're not overreacting. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is." The next day, Sunday, Olivia called again. "Mom, we're on our way. We're leaving in an hour. Do you need us to bring anything?" "Olivia, I don't think it's a good idea for you to come today." "Why not?" "I already told you we want to see you. I'm busy." "Busy with what?" "Come on." "Mom, don't be like that." And then she said it. The sentence that confirmed everything. "Besides, we want to see your new house. They say it's really nice. Right on the beach. Must have cost a fortune." There it was. They were not coming to see me. They were coming to see the house. "Who told you that?" I asked. "It doesn't matter. The point is, we're excited to see it. Ethan is coming too. And his wife. We're going to make it a family day." "No," I said, firmly. "Do not come today." "Mom, don't be difficult. We're already on our way." "Olivia, I am telling you not to come." "Too late. See you in 2 hours." And she hung up. I looked at Caroline. She had heard the whole conversation. "They're coming anyway," she said. "Yes." "Then we get ready." We turned on all the cameras, the ones at the entrance, the ones on the porch, the ones in the living room, the ones in the yard. Claire arrived half an hour later. She had called saying she was coming, that she wanted to be present. "If this is going where I think it's going," she said, "I need to see it with my own eyes, and I need it to be recorded." The 3 of us sat in the living room, waiting. 2 hours later, exactly as Olivia had said, they arrived. A big, expensive black car. It parked in front of my house. Olivia and Ethan got out, but they were not alone. With them was a man I did not know, Gray suit, briefcase in hand, serious face, and behind him, Ethan's wife. A woman who had always treated me with disdain. "Who is that man?" I asked Claire. She narrowed her eyes. "If I had to guess, I'd say he's a lawyer." My heart stopped. They knocked on the door. Loudly, insistently. Caroline took my hand. "Breathe. You are not alone." I opened the door. Olivia walked in first. Without waiting for an invitation, looking at everything, evaluating, calculating. "Mom," she said. But she did not hug me. She did not even really look at me. Her eyes were fixed on the house, on the windows, on the view of the sea. Ethan came in next. He did not greet me warmly either. Just a quick kiss on the cheek. Cold, mechanical. And then the man in the suit entered. "Mrs. Wallace," he said, extending his hand. "My name is Richard Price. I'm an attorney. I represent your children." There it was. The confirmation. They had not come to visit me. They had come to take my house. Claire stood up. "I'm Claire, Mrs. Wallace's attorney, and I'd like to know exactly what you're doing here." Olivia's face changed. Surprise, confusion, anger. "Attorney? Why do you need an attorney, Mom?" "That's an excellent question, Olivia," Claire said. "Why would your mother need an attorney? Is there something she needs to be protected from?" Richard cleared his throat. "Mrs. Wallace, we are here on behalf of your children because they are concerned for your well-being. We have been informed that you made a significant purchase recently, a purchase that used all of your savings, and they are worried that you may not be in a condition to make those kinds of decisions." "Not in a condition," I repeated. My voice sounded strange, distant. "What my client means," Ethan interjected, "is that we're worried someone took advantage of you, Mom. That they convinced you to buy this house. That they manipulated you." "Manipulated," I said. "Yes," Olivia added. "Look, Mom, we understand you're angry with us. Maybe we haven't been the best children lately. We admit it. But this is too much. Spending all your money on a house you don't need. Moving away from your family. This isn't normal." Caroline stepped forward. "I'm Caroline Martin. I sold this house to Mrs. Wallace. And I can assure you, no one manipulated her. She came of her own free will, with her own money, and she made her own decision. And who are you to her?" Olivia attacked. "A realtor? A stranger? And now you're here defending her against her own family?" "I am here," Caroline said calmly, "because your mother asked me to be. Because apparently, she knew you were coming, and she knew she would need support." "This is ridiculous," Ethan said. "Mom, tell these people to leave. We need to talk. As a family." "No," I said. My voice came out stronger than I expected. "They are staying, and you are going to tell me exactly what you are doing here." Now, Richard opened his briefcase. He took out some documents. "Mrs. Wallace, your children have prepared these documents. They are to protect you, to ensure your assets are safe. Basically, they would transfer the ownership of this house into a trust managed by her children. That way, you could continue to live here, but they would make sure no one takes advantage of you." "A trust managed by them," Claire said. Her voice was ice cold. "You mean you are asking her to give you her house?" "That's not it," Olivia said. "It's for her own good." "My own good," I said. And for the first time in my life, I looked at my children with absolute clarity. Where were you on Mother's Day? Where were you on my birthday? Where were you when I needed you? "Mom, don't start," Ethan said. "Where were you?" I repeated. No one answered. "I'll tell you. You weren't here. You were never here. But now that you have something you want, here you are, with a lawyer, with papers, trying to take away the only thing that is mine." "It's not like that, Mom," Olivia insisted. But her voice no longer sounded convincing. I looked at those papers in Richard's hand. I looked at my children. I looked at their faces. And I knew that everything Claire had predicted was true. They had come to rob me. Claire took the documents from Richard's hands before he could react. She glanced over them quickly. Her eyes moved fast over the pages. Her expression hardened with every paragraph. "This is unbelievable," she said finally. "Absolutely unbelievable." "What is it?" I asked. These documents are not to protect you, Helen. They are to strip you of everything. If you signed this, you would lose all rights to this property. Your children would have total control. They could sell it whenever they wanted. They could kick you out whenever they wanted. And you could do absolutely nothing. That's not true, Richard jumped in. The trust clearly stipulates that Mrs. Wallace can live here until her death. Yes, as long as they allow it, Claire retorted. But it also stipulates that they can make any decision about the property without her consent, including selling it if they deem it necessary for her medical care, which is a clause so broad it basically gives them a blank check to do whatever they want. You're misinterpreting, Olivia said. Her voice rose. This is all to protect Mom. From whom? Asked Caroline. From you. From people like you, Olivia spat. Strangers who show up out of nowhere and suddenly act like better children than we are. I don't pretend to be her daughter, Caroline said quietly. I'm just someone who treats her mother with respect. Something you two clearly never learned to do. Ethan stood up. We are not going to stay here and be insulted. No one is insulting you, I said. They are just telling the truth. The truth? You want the truth, Mom? Ethan took a step toward me. The truth is, you've always been difficult, always demanding attention, always making us feel guilty. Nothing was ever enough for you. We were never enough. I was the difficult one. My voice trembled. I, who worked 2 jobs to give you an education. I, who sold my things to pay for your whims. I, who never denied you anything. I was the difficult one. Always with the same thing, Olivia said. Always reminding us of everything you did. As if we owe you our entire lives. I don't need to remind you of anything. You know it. You just chose to forget it. This is getting us nowhere, Richard interrupted. Mrs. Wallace, my clients are willing to be generous. If you sign these documents today, they will commit to visiting you once a month, to calling you every week, to including you in family celebrations. I stared at him, incredulous. You are bribing me with affection, I said. You are offering me crumbs of attention in exchange for my house? It's not a bribe, Olivia said. It's a compromise. We all win. You have your house. We make sure you're protected. And we rebuild our relationship. What relationship? I asked. We didn't have a relationship. You erased me from your lives years ago. That's not true, Ethan said. But he sounded weak, unconvincing. No? When was the last time you came to visit me? When was the last time you called just to see how I was? When was the last time you included me in anything without me having to ask? Silence. Exactly, I said. Claire moved closer to me. She spoke in a low voice. Helen, I need you to tell me something. Do you have all the conversations saved? The messages? The calls? Yes, I said. Everything, just like you told me. Good, because we're going to need them. She turned back to Richard. Your proposal is unacceptable, and I suggest you review the civil code, specifically the articles on financial exploitation of the elderly, because what you are trying to do here fits that definition perfectly. We are not exploiting anyone, Richard said. But for the first time he sounded unsure. No? Then explain to me why your clients show up unannounced, with legal documents already prepared, pressuring a 69-year-old woman to sign over control of her property. Explain to me why they didn't consult with her first, why they didn't respect her decision to buy this house with her own money. Because we're worried, Olivia insisted. Is that so hard to understand? We are her family. We have a right to be worried. The problem, Caroline said, is that you were never worried before. Only now. Only when there's money involved. You don't know anything about our family, Olivia yelled at her. I know enough. I know your mother spent Mother's Day alone. I know she spent Christmas alone. I know you never visited her, never called her. And now, suddenly, you're the concerned children of the year. Do you know what I think? I think you saw an opportunity. A house on the beach, $180,000. And you decided that money should be yours. $180,000, Ethan repeated. His eyes went wide. You paid $180,000 for this house. There it was. The final confirmation. They did not know exactly how much it cost. They just knew it was valuable. That was all your money, Ethan continued. Everything you had saved. And you spent it on this? Without consulting us? Why would I need to consult you? I asked. It's my money. That money was our inheritance, Olivia said. And she finally said it, finally admitted what they really wanted. Your inheritance, I repeated slowly. Money that I haven't died to give you yet. Money that I earned, that I saved. And you think you have a right to it. You always said you would leave it to us, Ethan said. You always said that when you died, everything would be ours. Yes, when I died. Not now. Not while I am still alive and need that money to live my life. Your life, Olivia scoffed. What life? You're an old woman. Alone. What do you need a beach house for? To be happy, I said simply. To have a place where I don't feel invisible. Where I don't have to beg for attention. Where I can just exist without feeling like I'm too much. This is a mistake, Richard said. Mrs. Wallace, your children are right to be concerned. Such a large purchase at your age, without consulting anyone, could be a sign of cognitive decline. Cognitive decline, Claire said. Her voice was dangerous. Are you telling me that a perfectly lucid woman, who made a sound financial decision, who consulted with lawyers, who did her due diligence, has cognitive decline simply because her children don't agree with her decision? That's not what I said. It's exactly what you said. And I warn you, if you continue down that path, I will file a formal complaint with the Bar Association. What you are doing here is harassment. It is manipulation. And I will not allow it to continue. Claire is right, I said, finding my voice, my strength. I want all of you to leave. Now. Mom, we can't just leave like this, Ethan said. We need to resolve this. There is nothing to resolve. This is my house. I bought it with my money. And I am not signing any documents. Ever. You're going to regret this, Olivia said. Her mask had finally fallen. There was no more sweetness. No more feigned concern. There was only rage. You're going to end up alone. Completely alone. And when you need us, we won't be there. You know what? I said. I was already alone. I have been alone for years. You're just making it official. This isn't going to end here, Ethan threatened. Is that a threat? Claire asked. Because I hope you know this conversation is being recorded. Every word, every threat. Recorded? Olivia looked around. She saw the cameras. Her face went pale. You were recording us, yes, I said. Since you arrived. Everything is recorded. This is illegal, Richard exclaimed. Actually, it's not, Claire corrected. This is private property. Mrs. Wallace has every right to record what happens in her own home. And believe me, this video is going to be very useful if you decide to pursue any legal action. Richard closed his briefcase. This isn't over. Oh, yes, it is, I said. Now leave, all of you. And don't come back unless you are willing to treat me with respect, with real love. Not this farce. Olivia looked at me with pure hatred. You are selfish. You always were. Everything was always about you, never about us. It's funny you should say that, I replied, because I spent my entire life making everything about you. But the first time I do something for myself, I'm selfish. You know what? Maybe I am, and maybe I should have been a long time ago. Ethan grabbed Olivia's arm. Let's go. This is a waste of time. Go, I repeated. And don't come back. The three of them left. Richard first. Then Ethan. Then Olivia. She stopped at the door. She looked at me one last time. You're going to die alone, she said. Better alone than surrounded by people who only want me for my money, I answered. The door closed behind them. I heard the car start, drive away. And then, finally, I collapsed. Caroline held me as I cried. I cried for everything. For the lost years. For the love I never received. For the betrayal. For the devastating clarity of finally seeing my children for what they really were. But I also cried with relief. Because it was finally over. I had finally told the truth. I had finally defended myself. You did so well, Caroline whispered to me. You were so brave. I don't feel brave, I said. I feel destroyed. That's normal. But it will pass. and you will be better. I promise you. Claire was reviewing the recordings on her computer. She had connected the cameras and downloaded all the videos. This is gold, she said. We have everything documented. The threats, the admissions, the manipulation. If they try anything legally, this destroys them. Do you think they will? I asked. Honestly, I don't know. It depends on how desperate they are. But now we have something they didn't expect. Evidence. And that gives us power. They stayed with me that night. Both of them. Caroline slept on the couch, Claire in the guest room, and I, for the first time in weeks, slept deeply. The next day, Monday morning, Claire returned early. We need to be proactive, she said. We can't just wait and see what they do. We have to get ahead of them. What do you suggest? First, we're going to strengthen the legal protection of this property. I'm going to create documents that unequivocally prove you are in full possession of your mental faculties. We're going to get medical evaluations. We're going to get witnesses to testify to your competence. Is all that really necessary? Yes, because if they decide to go the mental incapacitation route, we need to have overwhelming proof to the contrary. We can't leave any loose ends. For the next 2 weeks, I did exactly as Claire instructed. I went to see a doctor, Dr. Daniel Lewis, a geriatrician with 30 years of experience. He ran tests, cognitive exams, memory evaluations, everything. Mrs. Wallace, he told me after reviewing the results, you are perfectly fine. Your mind is clear. Your memory is excellent. There is absolutely no sign of cognitive decline. In fact, you're in better shape than many people 20 years younger. He gave me a detailed report, an official document certifying my mental competence. I also visited a psychologist, Dr. Ann Martin. I told her everything, about my children, about the neglect, about the betrayal. She listened, took notes, and at the end, she told me something I will never forget. Helen, what you have done requires immense strength. Many people in your situation simply give up. They accept the mistreatment. They normalize the neglect. But you said enough. You chose your own happiness over their approval. That is not selfishness. That is self-preservation. That is mental health. She also gave me a report, certifying that I was emotionally stable, that my decision to buy the house was not the product of depression or impulse, but a conscious and healthy choice. Claire gathered everything. The medical reports, the videos, the text messages, the call logs, everything. Now we have a solid case, she said. If they try anything, we are more than ready. But days passed, and nothing happened. Then weeks. No calls, no messages, no lawyers knocking on my door. Absolute silence. And that silence confirmed everything I already knew. They did not miss me. They were not worried. They were just waiting, planning their next move. Don't trust the calm, Caroline warned me. People like them don't give up that easily. She was right. A month after their visit, a certified letter arrived. From Richard Price's law firm. I opened it with trembling hands. I read it once, twice, 3 times. I could not believe what I was seeing. They were suing me. Olivia and Ethan were suing me for mental incapacity. They were asking a judge to declare me incompetent, to appoint a legal guardian, and they, of course, were offering themselves as guardians. If they won, they would have total control of my life, my money, my house, everything. I called Claire immediately. I already know, she said. I received the notification this morning, and I'm already preparing the defense. How can they do this? How can they lie like this? Because they're desperate. And because they probably think they're going to win. They think you're just an old woman with no resources, no defense, no one to support you. But we have a chance. Helen, we don't just have a chance. We are going to win. And when we win, they are going to be exposed. They are going to be ridiculed. And they are going to have to pay the court costs. When is the hearing? In 6 weeks, which gives us enough time to prepare. For those 6 weeks, I worked harder than I had in years. Claire coached me. She made me practice what I would say in court, how I would behave, what I would wear. You have to look competent, she told me. Lucid, confident. You cannot hesitate. You cannot cry. You cannot show weakness. I practiced in front of the mirror, over and over, memorizing the answers, controlling my emotions. Caroline helped me prepare emotionally. She reminded me why I was doing this. She reminded me that I had a right to live my life, that I owed nothing to anyone. They are going to try to make you feel guilty, she told me. They're going to say you're a bad mother, that you abandoned your family. But you know the truth, and that truth is your power. We also got witnesses, the neighbors from my old house, who could testify about how Olivia and Ethan never visited me, how they left me alone for days, weeks, months. The owner of the store where I shopped, who had known me for years, who could testify to my lucidity, my independence, Dr. Ann, Dr. Daniel, both willing to testify, and Caroline, who could tell how I behaved during the purchase of the house, how I asked questions about everything, how I evaluated every detail, how I made an informed and responsible decision. We are going to prove, Claire said, that you are not only competent, but that you are more competent than most of the people who will be in that room. A week before the trial, I received a call. It was Ethan. Mom, he said. His voice sounded tired, defeated. We can solve this. It doesn't have to go to trial. What do you want, Ethan? Withdraw the purchase of the house, return it, and we will withdraw the lawsuit. Everything goes back to normal. Normal? What normal? The normal where you ignore me? Where you treat me like I don't exist? We can change. I promise. We'll visit more. We'll call more. Just give back the house. No. Mom, please. This is getting out of control. It's going to hit the papers. It's going to be public. Do you want that? Do you want everyone to know your family is fighting? I don't care what people think. Not anymore. You're going to lose. Our lawyer says we have a solid case. Then I'll see you in court. Mom. I hung up. My hands were shaking. But I also felt something else. Something I had not felt in a long time. Power. The night before the trial, I could not sleep. I stayed awake thinking about everything that could happen, all the ways it could go wrong, but I also thought about all the reasons why I had to win, not just for the house, not just for the money, but for my dignity, for my right to exist, for my right to be seen, valued, respected. At 6 o'clock in the morning, I got up. I showered. I got dressed with care. A simple but elegant suit, light gray, nothing flashy, nothing that looked like I was trying too hard. Claire arrived at 7. Ready? She asked. Ready, I said. Caroline came with us, for moral support, to remind me I was not alone. The drive to the courthouse was silent, each of us lost in our own thoughts. We arrived early. The courtroom was still empty. We sat in the front pews. At 8:30, they arrived. Olivia, Ethan, Richard, and 2 other people I did not know, probably their own witnesses. Olivia looked at me. I looked right back at her. Without blinking, without looking away, I was not afraid of her anymore. I no longer felt small in her presence. She was my daughter, but she was also my adversary, and I was ready to fight. The judge entered at 9 o'clock on the dot. Case number 2847, the clerk announced. Olivia Wallace and Ethan Wallace versus Helen Wallace. Petition for declaration of mental incapacity. The judge was an older man, in his 60s. Serious face, tired eyes. Very well, he said. Let's hear from the plaintiffs first. Richard stood up, and the trial began. Richard walked to the center of the room. He adjusted his suit, cleared his throat, and began to speak with that rehearsed lawyer's voice he had perfected over the years. Your Honor, we are here today because 2 concerned children fear for their mother's well-being. Helen Wallace, 69 years old, recently made an alarming financial decision. She spent her entire life savings, $180,000, on a property she does not need. A beach house, far from her family, far from her support network. This impulsive and uncharacteristic decision raises serious concerns about her ability to make responsible financial decisions. I bit my tongue. Claire had warned me. Do not react. Do not show emotion. Let them talk. Furthermore, Richard continued, Mrs. Wallace has cut off communication with her family. She has isolated herself. She has refused help. She has hired lawyers and installed security cameras as if her own family were a threat. This paranoid behavior is another sign of mental decline. Paranoid. He called me paranoid for protecting myself from them. My clients do not seek to control their mother. They only want to ensure she is safe, that she is not exploited, that her final years are dignified and protected. That is why we request that the court appoint a legal guardian, someone who can oversee her finances, someone who can make decisions in her best interest. He sat down, pleased with himself. The judge looked at his papers. Do you have witnesses? Yes, Your Honor. We call Olivia Wallace. Olivia stood up. She walked to the stand. She swore to tell the truth. She sat down, and her performance began. My mother was always a strong woman, she said. Her voice trembled perfectly, as if she were holding back tears. She raised us alone. She worked hard. She gave us everything. But in recent years, I've noticed changes. She's become forgetful, confused. Sometimes she calls and repeats the same stories. Sometimes she forgets we've already spoken. A lie, a pure lie. And then, suddenly, without telling anyone, she buys this house, a very expensive house, in a place she'd never even visited, without consulting us, without thinking of the consequences. When we found out, we tried to talk to her, but she became defensive, aggressive. She accused us of horrible things, said we didn't love her, that we had abandoned her. None of that is true. We're just worried. How often did you visit your mother before this purchase? The judge asked. Olivia hesitated. Just for a second. But it was enough. Well, not as often as we would have liked. We both work. We have our own families. But we called. We always called. How often? Once or twice a month. Another lie. Claire knew it. I knew it. And soon the judge would know it too. Richard asked more questions. Olivia answered with more lies. They painted me as a fragile woman, confused, easily manipulated. Then they called Ethan. He was more direct, less emotional. My mother changed, he said. She's not the same. She used to be reasonable. Now she's stubborn, irrational. She became obsessed with this idea that we don't love her, that we abandoned her. But it's not true. We've always been there for her. Were you present on Mother's Day this year? The judge asked. Ethan tensed. No, we had a prior commitment. And the year before, we also had commitments. And did you call her that day? Silence. Mr. Wallace, I asked if you called your mother on Mother's Day. I sent a text, he said finally. At night, the judge wrote something in his notes. After Ethan, Richard tried to call a psychiatrist, someone who had never met me, but who had reviewed the case and believed I showed signs of decline. Claire objected immediately. Your Honor, this witness has never evaluated my client. He has never spoken with her. His opinion is based solely on information provided by the plaintiffs. It is completely inadmissible, the judge agreed. The psychiatrist could not testify. Richard looked frustrated. That is all, Your Honor. We rest our case. The judge turned to Claire. Does the defense wish to present its case? Yes, Your Honor. Claire stood up, and at that moment, everything changed. Your Honor, what we are witnessing here is not the case of a mother with mental decline. It is the case of two adult children trying to steal from their mother. It is that simple. And I am going to prove it. She walked to the center of the room. She took out a remote control, and she projected the first video onto the screen. It was from Mother's Day. The table I had set. Empty. The silent phone. And then the screenshots of Olivia's social media. The restaurant photos. The caption, Perfect Sunday with the people who matter. This, Claire said, is Mother's Day of this year. Mrs. Wallace prepared a meal. She waited for her children. They never came. They never called. And instead, they were celebrating with other people, the people who matter. Their words, not mine. Olivia sank in her chair. Claire showed more evidence. Text messages, call dates, all documented. In the last 12 months, Claire said, Olivia Wallace called her mother exactly 4 times. Ethan Wallace, 3 times. Neither of them visited her a single time, except when they discovered she had bought a valuable property. Then, suddenly, they appeared. With a lawyer. With legal documents already prepared. Demanding she sign over control. She played the video from that day. The entire thing. Every word. Every threat. The judge watched the screen intently. His expression hardened with every minute. When the video finished, Claire spoke again. Your Honor, I would now like to call my first witness, Helen Wallace. I stood up. My legs were shaking. But I walked steadily to the stand. I swore to tell the truth. I sat down, and I took a deep breath. Claire approached. She gave me a small, comforting smile. Mrs. Wallace, can you tell us why you decided to buy the beach house? Because I needed a place where I didn't feel invisible, I said. My voice came out clearer than I expected. I spent years waiting for my children to see me, to include me, to love me, but they never did. And I realized that if I wanted to have a life worth living, I had to build it myself. Did anyone pressure you to make that purchase? No. It was completely my decision. I researched for weeks. I consulted with the realtor. With you. With my bank. I made an informed and responsible decision. At any point did you feel confused or uncertain about what you were doing? Never. I was completely sure. Can you tell us what happened when your children discovered the purchase? And so I told everything. Calmly, clearly, without tears. I told them about Olivia's call, about how they showed up unannounced, about the documents they brought prepared, about the threats, about everything. Richard tried to discredit me. He tried to trip me up. To make me angry? Mrs. Wallace, isn't it true you have memory problems? No. I forget normal things that everyone forgets. Where I left my keys. If I turned off the stove. But I do not forget important conversations. I do not forget commitments. I do not forget my children. Isn't it true you are resentful toward your children? I am not resentful. I am hurt. There is a difference. Resentment is bitter. Hurt is honest. Don't you think your children have a right to be concerned? They would have a right if they were actually concerned. But they are not. They are concerned about the money, not about me. Claire then called Dr. Daniel. He testified about my evaluations, about my perfect mental health, about my complete lucidity. In my professional opinion, he said, Mrs. Wallace is in full possession of her faculties. There is absolutely no sign of cognitive decline. In fact, her mental clarity is remarkable. Then Dr. Ann testified. She spoke about my emotional health, about my strength, about my ability to make difficult but necessary decisions. What Helen did requires exceptional mental health, she said. Many people in her situation stay trapped in toxic relationships because they don't have the courage to leave. She did. That is not insanity. That is bravery. Caroline testified next. She told about the buying process, about how I asked about everything, about how I evaluated every detail, about my completely normal and responsible behavior. And finally, Claire presented more evidence. Text messages from Ethan asking to borrow money. $500 that he never paid back. Broken promises. Cancelled visits. All documented. Your Honor, Claire said at the end. What we have here is not an incompetent mother. It is a mother who finally said enough, who finally put herself first. And her children cannot stand it. Not because they are worried about her, but because they are worried about their inheritance. They are worried that the money they thought was theirs is no longer available. So they invented this story of mental incapacity. But as we have proven today, it is exactly that. A story, a lie, and an attempt at financial exploitation of a senior citizen. She sat down. The judge reviewed his notes for what seemed like an eternity. The courtroom was completely silent. You could only hear the ticking of the clock on the wall. Finally, he looked up. I have heard enough, he said, and I have seen enough, and my decision is as follows. My heart was beating so hard I thought everyone could hear it. The petition for a declaration of mental incapacity is denied, completely. Mrs. Helen Wallace is clearly in full possession of her mental faculties. She made an informed and responsible financial decision, and she has every right to live her life as she chooses. I felt the air return to my lungs. Furthermore, the judge continued, I find that this lawsuit was frivolous and motivated by financial interests. The plaintiffs will pay all court costs, and I warn Miss Olivia and Mr. Ethan Wallace that any future attempt to harass or manipulate their mother will be met with the full severity of the law. He struck the gavel. Case closed. Claire hugged me. Caroline cried. And I just sat there, paralyzed, processing. I had won. I looked over at where Olivia and Ethan were. Olivia had tears in her eyes, but they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of rage, of humiliation. Ethan was not looking at me. His gaze was fixed on the floor. Richard was packing his papers hastily, clearly wanting to get out of there as quickly as possible. And then Olivia looked at me, one last time. She said nothing, but her look said it all. This was not over for her, not in her mind, not in her heart, but for me, it was. Because I had finally won something more important than the lawsuit. I had won my freedom. I walked out of the courthouse with my head held high. The afternoon sun blinded me for a moment, but it was a bright, warm Sunday, full of promise. Claire walked on one side of me, Caroline on the other, both smiling, both proud. You did it perfectly, Claire told me. It couldn't have gone better. Thanks to you, I replied. Without you, I wouldn't have known what to do. Thanks to you, she corrected. For having the courage to defend yourself, for not giving up, for believing you deserved better. We stopped on the sidewalk. The traffic passed. People walked by. The world kept spinning. But I felt different, lighter, as if I had left years of weight in that courtroom. What will you do now? Caroline asked. Live, I said simply. Just live. That night, back in my house by the sea, I sat on the porch. I listened to the waves. I looked at the stars. And for the first time in years, I felt true peace. It was not the peace of resignation. It was not the peace of denial. It was the peace of someone who had finally fought and won. The peace of someone who had stood up for herself and survived. The following days were strange. I expected to feel sadness, guilt, regret. But none of that came. Just a deep calm. A quiet certainty that I had done the right thing. I received no calls from Olivia or Ethan. No messages, no attempts at reconciliation, and I was not surprised. Because it had never been about me. It had been about the money, about the inheritance, about control, and now that they had lost, there was no point in pretending anymore. A week after the trial, I was watering my plants when I saw a woman walking on the beach. She was older, maybe my age. She wore a large hat and walked slowly, carefully. She stopped in front of my house. She looked at me, and she smiled. Excuse me, she said. Are you Mrs. Wallace? Yes, I replied, cautiously. I read about you in the newspaper. About the trial. I hope you don't mind me mentioning it. My heart sped up. I did not know they had published anything about the case. I didn't know it was in the paper, I said. It was just a small note, in the local section. But it struck me, because I have children too, and I have also felt, I have also felt what you felt. She came a little closer. I could see her eyes. They were full of understanding, of shared pain. My name is Lillian, she said. Lillian Davis. And I just wanted to tell you that I admire what you did very much. I admire your bravery. Thank you, I said. My voice sounded softer than I expected. Can I ask you something? Yes. How did you know it was time? How did you know you had to walk away? I was silent for a moment, thinking, remembering. I think I knew when I realized I was waiting for love from people who had decided not to give it, and that I could spend the rest of my life waiting, or I could start living, and I chose to live. Lillian nodded slowly. Tears glistened in her eyes. I'm still waiting, she said in a low voice. I'm still waiting for my children to see me, to value me. But every day it gets harder. Then maybe it's time for you to stop waiting, I told her gently. Maybe it's time for you to choose yourself. She smiled through her tears. Maybe you're right. Would you like some coffee? I offered. Here on the porch, looking at the sea. I would love that. It has been 2 years since that trial. 2 years since I said enough. 2 years since I decided my life belonged only to me. The house by the sea is still my refuge. Every morning I wake up to the sound of the waves. Every evening I watch the sunset from my porch. And every night I sleep in peace. A peace I never knew before. A peace I did not know was possible. Olivia and Ethan never looked for me again. Not one call, not one message, not even on my birthday or at Christmas. And that's okay. It really is okay. Because I understood something fundamental during these 2 years. I cannot force anyone to love me. I cannot beg for a place in anyone's heart. Not even my own children's. True love is not begged for. It is not negotiated. It is not bought with sacrifices or silence or by accepting crumbs. True love simply is. Or it is not. And with Olivia and Ethan, it simply was not. But I found love in other places. In Caroline, who became the sister I never had. In Lillian, who finally also found the courage to walk away from children who only sought her out when they needed something. In Miss Hernandez, who passed away 6 months ago and left me captain in his will because he knew I would care for him with the same love he had for him. Emma writes to me every 2 months. Hidden letters she sends without her mother knowing. She tells me about school, about her dreams, about how she wants to be strong like me when she grows up. And I write back to her. I tell her about the sea, about the importance of choosing oneself, about how true love never makes you feel small. One day she will come, when she is older, when she can make her own decisions, and I will be here waiting for her, not with resentment toward her parents, not with bitterness, but with open arms and a heart full of a love she never had to earn, a love that was always hers. I have learned that family is not always blood. Sometimes it is the people who show up in your life right when you need them most. The people who see you, who value you, who choose to stay. I have learned that it is okay to set boundaries, that it is okay to say no, that it is okay to walk away from people who hurt you, even if they share your last name. I have learned that it is never too late to start over, that at 69 years old, you can build a completely new life, a life that makes sense, a life that is yours. And I have learned that forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. I can forgive Olivia and Ethan for what they did and still choose not to have them in my life. I can wish them the best from a distance. I can let go of the pain without letting go of the boundaries. This morning I walked on the beach. The sun was just rising. The sky was orange and pink, and I felt something I had not felt in years. Gratitude. Deep, true gratitude. Gratitude for having had the courage to leave. Gratitude for having found this house. Gratitude for the people who showed up just when I needed them. Gratitude for being alive, for being free, for being me. Sometimes people ask me if I have regrets, if I miss my children, if I wish things had been different, and the answer is complex. Yes, I miss the children they were. I miss the babies I rocked, the little ones who called me mommy with voices full of love. But I do not miss the adults they became. I do not miss the pain. I do not miss the invisibility. I do not miss feeling like a burden in their lives. I wish things had been different, of course, I do. I wish I had children who truly loved me, who valued me, who chose me, but I did not. And I had to accept that and move on. And now, looking back, I can say with all honesty that I made the right decision, that saving myself was the bravest act of my life, that choosing myself was not selfishness. It was survival. This house by the sea is not just a refuge. It is a symbol, a daily reminder that I deserve beauty, I deserve peace, I deserve a life worth living. And every day that I wake up here, every day that I see the ocean, every day that I breathe this clean, salty air, I am living that life. It is not the life I imagined when I was young. It is not the life I dreamed of when my children were small, but it is my life. completely mine. And it is enough. More than enough. It is all I need. And if you are reading this, if you are listening to my story and you see yourself reflected in it, I want you to know something. It is never too late. It is never too late to choose yourself, to set boundaries, to build a life that makes sense for you. No matter your age, no matter how long you have waited, no matter how much you have sacrificed, you also deserve to be seen, valued, chosen. And if the people in your life cannot give you that, then maybe it is time to find new people, new places, new beginnings. Because life is too short to spend it waiting for love from people who are never going to give it to you. Life is too precious to waste it feeling invisible. So my question for you is this: how much longer are you going to wait? How much longer are you going to accept crumbs when you deserve a feast? How much longer are you going to let others define your worth? Because I waited too long, almost my entire life. And when I finally stopped waiting and started living, everything changed. And you can change your life too. Today. Now. In this moment. You just have to choose yourself. Like I finally chose me.